Hello gang, good to have you back again. Of course, if you're tuning in for the first time, I am the Articulate Grunt. Welcome to my channel. So every year I hear the question, sometimes complaints, sometimes rather viciously, why in America do we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May? It's a Mexican holiday. It's their Independence Day. Well, it got me thinking. I decided to look it up and find out, why do we celebrate a Mexican holiday? First off, Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Day of Independence. That's the 16th of September. Now, that out of the way, what is Cinco de Mayo? Cinco de Mayo is the celebration of the defeat of the French army by Mexican general, Ignacio Zaragoza Seguin in the Battle of Pueblo, 1862. Pueblo is basically a state in Mexico. Now, why do we celebrate that? Quite simply, French President Napoleon III, nephew of the Napoleon we all know from Waterloo and history and all that stuff, didn't like the fact that his uncle had sold the U.S. the Louisiana Territory and the Louisiana Purchase. He also didn't like the growing economic and world power the U.S. was growing into. But couldn't take us on head on. We've got states bigger than France. We had more population. Just couldn't do it. Couldn't find a way to come in and weaken us to level the playing field more in his favor. By the way, he was the first democratically elected president of France, but when his term limit was up, he basically had a little coup and took over as emperor like his uncle. So when our Civil War broke out, with the majority of the assets for the British and Spanish tied up in other places, other endeavors, he had to plan to break up the United States. He invaded Mexico with the plan of overthrowing the government, putting in a government of his own, and thus bypassing northern port blockades, supplying the Confederacy with munitions, arms, equipment, supplies, and trainers, and if necessary, personnel through Mexico, into Texas, and into the southern states, thus leading to a Confederate States of America instead of the United States of America, and decreasing the united powers of a United States, because the powers would be more split between state powers and authority, basically a confederacy of different smaller countries. Now, Cinco de Mayo in Pueblo, the French forces were defeated and driven back, thus stopping him from taking over. He had taken the port cities, but he couldn't take Mexico City. Now, this didn't last long. About a year and a half later, he landed with a force of 30,000 instead of 5,000 and succeeded in overthrowing the Mexican government and installing his own puppet emperor. But that took him all the way out to 1864. By the time he got everything consolidated, 1865 rolled around, our Civil War ended, and he would once again be facing a United States if he came north. That, combined with a looming war with Prussia on the horizon, what we now today know as Germany, decided that his plan wasn't viable anymore, it didn't work anymore, and he needed troops and supplies back home rather than stretching himself thin. So by 1867, he pulled everything out and returned back to France, leaving his puppet dictator and two Mexican generals with just their locally raised forces to support their government, which were immediately overthrown and executed. He did, however, create a great escape route for a number of Southern soldiers and leaders to escape Union prosecution. And that, gang, is why we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May here in the United States. It started at the end of our Civil War to give an extra holiday to celebrate and uplift people's spirits after our most manpower expensive war this country has ever fought. And because the Mexicans had stopped the French in 1862, instead of letting them take over, thus ruining the plan that would quite feasibly have cost the northern states the war and led to a Confederate States of America instead of the United States of America. And that, gang, is why we celebrate it in the United States as well as they celebrate in Mexico. Because had they not, things would be a whole lot different today. Thank you for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. I am the Articulate Grunt. Leave your thoughts, comments, corrections down below. Hit the like or dislike, and I will catch you next time.